Long-range guns given to Ukraine open door to new phase of war. The war in Ukraine may be entering a new stage as long-range rocket systems supplied by the US disrupt Russia's grinding advance in the eastern Donbass region and open the door for a possible counteroffensive. More than 150 days into President Vladimir Putin's invasion, it remains far from clear if Ukraine can take advantage of the opportunity that Britain's MI6 intelligence service chief Richard Moore last week said was emerging as Russian forces run out of steam. But reasons for the leadership in Kiev to attempt a larger assault are rising, both on and off the battlefield. Those include falling casualty rates, a recent hardening of Russia's declared territorial claims, the need for economic recovery within Ukraine, and a global downturn that could see allied governments under pressure to end the war. On Sunday, the Institute for the Study of War said in its daily report on the fighting that a Ukrainian counteroffensive in the southern Kherson region might already have begun. The report by the Washington think tank also attributed a sharp reduction in Russian artillery barrages on the main Donbass front since July 15 to so-called HIMARS, multiple rocket launch systems with a range of 80 kilometers, 50 miles, that have struck dozens of arms depots supplying the Russian front lines. Assessed control of terrain in Ukraine. Ukrainian forces have damaged all bridges that connect Russian forces in Kherson to their supply lines on the eastern bank of the massive Dnipro River, the ISW said on Monday. We have a significant potential for the advance of our forces on the front, and for the infliction of significant new losses on the occupiers, President Volodymyr Zelensky said after a meeting with his security chiefs on Thursday. Ukraine's battlefield casualties have fallen to about 30 per day, from a high of 100 to 200 per day in May-June, Zelensky said in an interview with the Wall Street Journal published on Friday. He again ruled out any ceasefire that leaves Russia in control of territory it has taken. All of this indicates the war is entering another phase, according to Phillips O'Brien, professor of strategic studies at the University of St. Andrews, Indiana, Scotland. In the first, Russian forces tried and failed to take Kiev in a fast-moving operation. In the second, they withdrew east in a bid to pound a path to victory, using artillery. If the reduction in Russian firepower in the Donbass continues, then basically that front is frozen and the question becomes, can the Ukrainians push them back? O'Brien said. On Sunday, Moscow Calling, a Russian mid-sized telegram channel on the invasion, made the same breakdown of the war, saying the arrival of HIMARS had launched a third phase. Ukraine's commanders are likely to be cautious, because when they try to move forward against modern defensive weaponry, their tanks, planes, and soldiers will face the same vulnerabilities that have plagued the Russian troops, according to O'Brien. And uncertainties abound, including the potential for Russian commanders to rebuild supply lines out of range of the HIMARS, or to galvanize an underperforming air force to destroy them. Either development could allow Russia to reinvigorate its operations and close any window of opportunity for Ukraine. The capacity of Ukrainian forces to roll back Russian territorial gains without first securing even more artillery, armored vehicles, and anti-aircraft systems from allied nations is also unclear. Although Kiev has conducted numerous counteroffensives since the invasion began on February 24, these have been on a small scale. A failed assault could cost Ukraine troops it can ill afford to lose, exposing it to a renewed attack, according to a European defense official. Still, Zelensky pledged last month to take back lost territory in the south, where Russian occupation up to Kherson has cut Ukraine's access to the sea and crippled its industrial heartland along the Dnipro, with major cities and factories as little as 50 kilometers from the front lines. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov last week added a further reason to act, saying Moscow now aimed to permanently separate the Kherson and Zaporizhia provinces from Ukraine. He likened them to the self-proclaimed Donetsk and Luhansk republics, which Moscow recognized as independent on the eve of the invasion. Lavrov cited further deliveries of arms by Ukraine's allies, claiming the longer reach of the weapons put Donetsk, Luhansk, and Russia under threat. The Kremlin has ordered referenda to approve Kherson and Zaporizhia's annexation by September 15, according to people familiar with the matter. Most of both provinces are under Russian occupation and such votes would be illegal. Even so, annexation would raise the stakes for any counteroffensive, because the Kremlin could portray it as an attack on Russia. Russia moves to annex occupied Ukrainian land by September. Ukraine also is under pressure to show its supporters in Europe and the US it can strike back, before they enter a season of energy crises, inflation and recession, caused in part by the war. To be honest, it will be an important reminder to the rest of Europe that this is a winnable campaign by the Ukrainians, MI6 Moore said, in a rare public appearance at the Aspen Security Forum, because we are about to go into a pretty tough winter. Pressure to secure gains is mounting for Russia, too, not least because it will be difficult to hold referenda with Ukrainian artillery still able to shell occupied cities such as Donetsk. The main problem is that while Ukraine gets more modern weapons to fight with, Russia is having to switch to ever older tanks, guns and missiles, a person close to the Russian Defense Ministry said, asking not to be identified, talking about confidential matters. Igor Girkin, a nationalist with 410,000 followers on Telegram who has fiercely criticized Russia's military leadership for being disorganized and ineffective in its campaign against Ukraine, said in a recent post there was wild understaffing of frontline units, while morale was poor with soldiers refusing to fight. He described recent progress by Russian forces in Ukraine as tortoise-like. "We have nothing to attack with in depth," said Girkin, a Russian citizen who played a prominent role in the 2014 Russian takeover of Crimea and weeks later became the first commander of Russia-backed separatist forces in Donbass. Girkin is being tried in absentia in the Netherlands, charged with murder in the 2014 downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 over eastern Ukraine, where all 298 on board were killed. He has dismissed the trial. A Ukrainian counterattack on Kherson could succeed at least in the short term, because it has more troops in a region where Russian forces are relatively weak and have their backs to the Dnipro River, according to the person with knowledge of Russian defense capabilities. In the end, though, it would still be a fight between two artilleries, and that means what we need most is more artillery, both for tactical depth at 20 to 25 kilometers, HIMARS at 80 kilometers and ATACMS, said Mykola Bieliskov, a research fellow at the National Institute for Strategic Studies, a Ukraine government think tank. He was referring to Army tactical missile systems, with a range as far as 300 kilometers. The US is not known to have sent ATACMS to Ukraine. Also, it would be about mobility, more armored vehicles, more air defense to cover these moving formations and secure communications, Bieliskov said. This is a process and it is too early to say the Russian front has stabilized. With assistance by Darina Krasnolutska and Alexander Kudrytsky.